I'm Paul.
And I'm Todd. Game on.
I really like our intro, man. I do. I do.
We nailed it this time. I feel good. I feel pumped
well,
up.
You know what? When I put us back in the green room, right, and hit the 30-second, there was actually a bar that said "Go live and play intro," right? So luckily they had a delete part for that part, so then it just said "Go live." So we did nail it this time.
There you go, friends. A little behind the scenes peek into podcasting, from Paul. So he's a pro. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a reasonable amateur. It's what I am. Something in those lines. So we did, the last show we actually did really well, and I put out the word after a few days ago, and got some responses from people. I said, look, okay, I'm a gamer. We got a show. Come on, people, admit you're gamers too. And if you're willing to admit it, okay, what do you play? And did you learn any lessons from it? Right? Or are you still smashing millions of creatures? Meaning I didn't really learn any lessons from Diablo 4 other than I'm pretty good at killing millions of goblins and ghouls and other nasty, ugly bosses. But I will tell you, we got some responses. It wasn't a massive amount, to be honest, but it was a good crew. And we actually will, and we'll talk about it a little later, we have a guest as a result of that who is definitely a gamer, has his favorites, and has learned, well, I think he's learned a number of lessons which have helped him in career and probably his life overall too. But, I love
like it.
Stuff.
I like it. Well, that's good. And of course, I'll ping my audience as well, a little more endemic to the gaming industry, but I'm glad we got someone from your CRM B2B world to admit they were gaming. What's up, Big Sip? Good to see you, man.
You clearly, I was going to say, this is clearly one of your friends.
helps with moderating our Discord. I'm sure in a future episode, we will talk all about community building and integrating the social layer to what you do. And Discord, of course, is a voice and text chat platform we use a lot in gaming. And so, yeah, we have a lot of great folks, including Big Sip there, helping with that.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm on Discord at times. In fact, one of the things I did to transmit our show, I haven't totally inactive. It's always been inactive Twitch channel, right? And I broadcasted to that. I don't know if anyone's going to pick it up. I doubt it, just because it's literally been inactive since the day I started. But I figured, what the hell? But tell me. I get on Discord sometimes, okay, and I join a couple of mostly on the gamers or home automation side, different things. But do you see? And again, Discord way better than me. Do you see Discord business communities on there? It would be an unusual use of it, but does it exist? And is there even an opportunity there? I don't know.
It's a good question. It's probably not the first lesson I would apply from gaming. In fact, the Discord platform, which is an amazing success story in itself. Maybe one day we bring on some of the folks from that group that we know. And I would say they kind of started to pivot to be a general purpose voice and text chat. And then they kind of head faked. And then, in my opinion, went back to no, gaming community is big enough and we're going to focus on that. So they're really seem to be reinvigorated about a focus on gaming. And so I wouldn't really advise a B2B company to have to move away from other tools like Slack or, other things that are more adapted in the business world. But for gaming and building community for gaming, pop culture, B2C companies, I think that's the primary opportunity to lean into Discord for sure.
It would be interesting. I mean, one of the things that I have noticed with Discord, at least, is the level of engagement is really high there. I mean, there's the back and forth, the constant. The other thing is the recruit your teams. All that stuff is it's off the charts as far as just the constant. And it's kind of like with Reddit. You got a lot of. I love Reddit, and I really do, but a lot of people who just bitch and moan on it too. So I think Reddit's where all the people who are like having bad days go to, right? But at the same time, the level of knowledge on that thing is off the charts, and the communication and interactivity is fantastic. But Discord's a little more Wild Westy and chaotic, but that same level of interaction is there, and it's just. I'm blown away by it. And why, how did it get there? Why are people so interactive on that platform?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, the first thing that existed before Discord is people wanted some social connectivity that they could take from game to game to game, right? So it's like if you're doing raids in a massively multiplayer online game, or you're just playing a first-person shooter with your friends, or even way back to text-based games, you form relationships in the game, but then this social unit, your guild or your clan, it would often move from game to game. And so rather than use whatever tools were in the game, and it's like, oh, now I got to start over. I don't have Paul's. I never got his email. I don't even know what he looks like. He was just a voice. So it was like IRC and text chat in early days. And then there were a couple other products. TeamSpeak was one of them, Vivox. These were just third-party offerings that would let you and me and our guild of 10 people or maybe 50 people, whatever game we're playing, we just know we hop in there and we can real-time text and chat. And so that product market need developed, expectation developed, my social network outside the game. And then Discord was just a great free option that did not require a download. You can download a client. You can have a phone version, but you can also just have a browser-based version. So free, low download requirement, easy to get into. And then, as happens with social networks, right? It's popular because it's popular, it becomes more popular. Everybody's there already. So they really do own that market now. And it's the real-time communication layer that's game independent, right? So if we're hopping between Fortnite, Call of Duty, Battlefield, me and my tribe can go and know that we can still talk.
One of the things I did notice from, I guess, the people who own and run Discord is they do a lot, and the Discord group owners is they do a lot to promote going to Discord. Meaning, let's say the more casual people. There's a guy on Diablo 4. His name is Cliptus, and he's a young guy. He's kind of a nice guy. He seems to, it's like, how it is when you're watching all these gaming videos. You basically stick with the ones that kind of like the people, because there's a lot of super skilled people on there. So you pick any one of a dozen of those, but you pick the one you kind of like the personality of, or they're not arrogant. In my case, be a decent human being. Don't be arrogant. Try to help people. Don't try to talk about how great you are. Those kind of things. And this guy Cliptus, and he has a very active Discord community, and he basically recruits at the beginning of every Diablo 4 season. And his basic pitch is, come run with us, on Diablo 4, join the Discord community, then basically join the group, then run with us. We'll set up runs within Discord. We'll, promote the runs. We'll go out, we'll run. You'll be able to level up a lot faster. And if you're a more casual player, you'll be with more experienced players, and we'll make sure you are paired up well. But he promotes basically the value of kind of the social team and the benefit you get from it. And he also gives away a lot of, cosmetic stuff that you can get from, I don't know how he gets it particularly, but he does. And so, I mean, I'm not a member of this group particularly, but I do like it. And I paid attention to how he does this right before the new season starts every single season. And the new season starts in Diablo 4 next week, right? So I see him all of a sudden again. But it fascinated me because he then, he does mention numbers and just the many thousands, and he recruits really. I mean, he gets a lot of recruits every season. So
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I'm impressed with the socialization and the engagement levels.
Yeah, well, I really like the platform. I mean, we're in our business doing a lot of investment to build community there. Part of the reason is if you are on these social media platforms and promoting, let's say, a giveaway, which is very common, right? Like I have some relationship with the game publisher, Diablo or Battlefield, and I'm giving some free codes, some free goodies to the community. That gets you in the door. But as valuable as these other platforms are, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, IG, we're on all of those, and they're super valuable because they give you good reach. But at the end of the day, you're one algorithm change away from not reaching your audience. You're building on someone else's land, and you just have to know that. And I've got a lot of history of building up, 1 million followers on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I can't reach them unless I pay. And at least for now, with Discord, you're building a community that, with their current business model, you can continue to reach and have a conversation. So it's very strategic for what we're doing in terms of community building and gaming. And that's part of the reason why is you're just like your streamer friend for Diablo, he can recruit people to do raids with him or brand activations or whatever it is. It's pretty cool platform. It's also good. I was just going to say maybe a lesson for B2B operators is they also really allow the individual server owner to have a lot of control and autonomy, right? So anyone can stand up what they call a server, which is just a virtual named destination, and do the administration. And there's really a lot of control there, moderation. And again, I think that's a general interesting decision around how they built their platform, and they're building it alongside their community because their community is marketing it, right? Your friend's marketing it for Diablo, someone else is marketing it for Call of Duty or for Roblox, and it grows Discord server by server, community by community.
See, that's to you. That's like so in the B2B world, one of the things when I look at communities, which I do, obviously, look, my ultimate concerns are built around engagement. I mean, not even CRM per se. To me, CRM itself has become kind of a just like a operational system, technology system for marketing, sales, customer service. And, some people try to squeeze e-commerce, and I'm old school enough to say, no, it wasn't there. Still not there, but it's important. It's adjacent, and important. But when it comes to customer experience, customer engagement, that's my concern. And when I look at communities that tend to be B2B, so for example, SAP has an enormous number of active communities, but they're really functionally more like user groups, meaning they're highly specific to skill set. The discussions are not always, but for the most part, around that skill set. They're specific to a development platform. There's basically a subject of interest, which you can build the community around, of course. But the conversation is pretty much around solving a problem or identifying something new or doing something in that community. It's not, and is it engaging at the way I'd like to see B2B? Well, not really. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's not. It's sort of hybrid left and right brain. But I think where B2B kind of lags, and it really does, and hopefully over time we can help them with this, is in the more right brain side of engagement, meaning the emotional involvement that's involved in it. Because, ultimately, if I'm looking at it from a strictly B2B business standpoint, I always have said, look, because we're always looking at how do you sell outcomes. If you're smart, that's the way you look. And one of the things I've always said to people is, look, you're not, when you have a buyer, you're not selling to him what's best for the company. You're selling to him what's best for the company and him, right? Both. There's no 100% company only. The reason only time that would happen is because it looked good for him, right? And this actually goes to a thing I learned years ago, which was I was at this event and I found out that the chairman of the CEO of a very large auto company had read CRM Speed of Light, and a friend of mine knew him, and he was at this party. So he brought him over and introduced me, and we talked for a little while. And I asked him a question because I was very curious about this. I said, because he's the CEO, so this is a very hypothetical question too. I said, look, if you're making the technology decision for your company, he was very tech savvy, this guy. If you're making the technology decision for your company, when you're listening to the pitches you're getting and you're making the decision, are you making it, let's say you came down to two choices. One was 100% perfect for the company, had no value to you whatsoever. The other was 80% perfect for the company, had some flaws, but had some value to you. Which would you pick? And he, without hesitation, said the second one. He did not say the first one. He said, now, in his case, the CEO, the first one would actually have value to him, right? Because he's responsible for everything. So, but it wasn't even, so what that suggests always is your brand, your company, if you have emotionally invested, and I mean emotionally invested customers, because that's what's important to them, right? It's not just the product you sell, but it's the experience you have. And I was reminded of something I had said years ago. I said, and the job of you as a business carrying out an interaction is to have enough of a successful customer experience in that interaction to promote another interaction, a next one. It's not only over time. It's one to one to one. The more engagement you continue to have, the more that actually happens. And Discord is where you see, which would be, I don't want to say it's absolutely ideal in a B2B environment, but it's their concept is really important in a B2B environment.
Right. Well, I think exactly. I mean, I like this area for today of kind of harnessing community and leaning into emotional investment, and maybe some things we could explore, before our guest joins us. But, I think Discord, I mean, it really is just this technology layer, and it's open to different types of programming and content and competitions. But there's a lot there. From the gaming standpoint, I think that when you talk about emotional investment, I mean, I can think of at least 3 things off the top of my head that we did when we were making the game Smite that drew emotional investment, right? So, and each is kind of different personas. So one is the competitor, someone that really is motivated from being the best. They want to win tournaments. They want to climb the performance leaderboard. And for that competitive player, that's where esports figures in. They're emotionally invested because a lot of their identity is tied to their performance and their team performance. And they're just by pursuing their natural interest and passion, they're helping to market the game because their content, they're a player. And if we don't have to do a software update, they're playing the game this week. We're broadcasting the tournament. It's content marketing that leans into their emotional investment as a player. And that's one type of invested player. Another one is just a content creator themselves. They're a creator. They're doing podcasts, or they're doing Twitch streams, or they're making funny YouTube videos. So again, we're not having to compensate them. They're building a business off of our intellectual property. We're just giving them permission to say, you can make a YouTube video about our game, and they go off and pursue their business, but it builds fandom because they're emotionally invested. And then the third this was more unusual. Not a lot of game studios did this, but we noticed with Smite, probably most games, just a big artist community was playing our game. And so we would do a monthly live stream show where we would have everyone submit their fan art, digital, drawn, painting.
That's cool.
Yeah, and our game was themed around mythology, so people really got into it. You know, you study these gods and goddesses in 7th grade, and then you get to play them. And so that was a whole other very modest investment on our part to shine a spotlight on a segment of our community that was emotionally invested. They're creating art. It's value for them. So yeah, I don't know what brainstorms come in your head around how B2B might evolve beyond the user group to some other sort of things, you know, whether you know of any great examples out there that stand out.
Well, I mean, I know of good ideas that stand out that were kind of B2B companies that were B2C, and meaning like Coca-Cola, okay? Meaning ultimately their audience is consumers, you know, B2C, but they operate internally like B2B, right? So this is years ago, but I always remember this because it was brilliant. If you remember in the early days of Facebook, people were creating pages for the things they loved. And it goes back to what we talked about, I think, on the first show, which was like, you know, Sony versus John Carmack, you know, people like that. So there were these guys, I think it was 2 guys who created a Facebook page honoring Coca-Cola. And it was an amazing page, by the way. And it had like incredible numbers of people who were then putting up tributes to Coke and putting up their, you know, because people collect Coca-Cola memorabilia like a lot, right? I mean, it's actually a sub branch of a real hobby as opposed to a few random people doing it. I mean, one of my in-laws actually collects all that stuff. So Coca-Cola, and you know, there was some stuff that if you were going to be jackasses, was illegal that they were putting up. But Coca-Cola didn't do that. Coca-Cola said, I'll tell you what, how about we work with you to build this page? We will give you everything you need. We'll fund it. We'll do this. We'll do that. And they built it into millions and millions and millions of people who followed that page, who became part of a constant discussion ongoing about Coca-Cola products. And there were tributes from Coca-Cola stuff from all over, probably all 160 countries rather in the world. I mean, it was just astounding what they did. And they really generated, not only that, a lot of brand heat too, meaning in a good sense. Like a lot of people started reading about it and seeing it and gravitating to it. And all of a sudden, you know, Pepsi receded even further into everyone's consciousness. I mean, look at the city of Atlanta, you know it, right?
Yeah.
Don't even mention the word Pepsi in Atlanta.
No, it's dangerous around here. I'll give you another Coke example, interestingly, that because, you know, they're very focused on experience, right? That's the word you love, you know, experience, right? And so we did a campaign with them for our game back in the day, Smite, and we were doing an esports event where you have an arena and you have people playing on a stage and you're broadcasting it. And we were pretty proud of ourselves because we sold out a 3,000 seat arena and it was going to be live streamed on Twitch and it was going to be great. But we worked something out with Coke where they were delivering value to their B2B partners who were movie theaters. This was about 6 years ago. So movie theaters, you know, how do you get people in seats these days and how do they enjoy that amazing beverage? I think Coke probably tastes best around a good movie and with some popcorn personally. And so what we did was a set of about 50 watch parties, right? So simulcast with our live event. Okay, you can't make it to Atlanta, or maybe we're sold out. You're in Los Angeles. Okay, here are like 3 theaters around the LA area where you can go and watch this live event in a movie theater. Get, of course, some free codes in the game because that's what you always do. Yep. Get some thunder sticks because that's esports. You bang these thunder sticks together, make a big noise, looks great. and enjoy a beverage. And for that brand, everybody knows Coke. They don't really need to build the brand. It wasn't performance marketing. It was an experience. It was like, how are they unlocking this for super fans, of Smite in partnership with Coke? So it was a really cool activation. It was B to B to C, like you mentioned, and very experience based.
Yeah, see, that stuff's the stuff that I think people need to learn on, as you know, and you know him well now too. Kenny Lauer, that's his world, right? And he builds that stuff. And from my standpoint, ultimately, what I'm looking for if I'm doing my job as a company and getting my customers engaged, I'm looking for an emotional investment, although I'm rational about it. Because the problem on the other side of that is there's always this problem that comes up, which is people think when they say, "Oh, I love that brand," it's the best thing ever. It's neither do they actually love it, nor is it the best thing ever necessarily. Like if I say, "Oh, you love them as much as you love your spouse," well, no. Do you love them as much as you love your brother and family? No. Do you love them as much as you love your friends? No. Right? I mean, it's not the same thing, brands. So don't overdo it here. But because that's the other problem. The tendency is to literally misinterpret what somebody means. This is a company, right? They ultimately, the reason that they started with this company is because it provided with something they either wanted or needed, right? And they were willing to put something out for it. Once that happens, then the job of the company is to keep them doing that, right? So, and again, the way you keep them doing that, look, one of the reasons Salesforce became at its peak, now it's much more of a company, more shareholder than stakeholder, I would say, which, it's still got a lot of good things going. But in the early days, one of the reasons Salesforce did as well as it did was because it promoted a culture that says, you're not just buying software, you're working with a company that's more than that. And the more than that part, because people wanted to be involved with something that was more than just a purchase, right? And they wanted it. They built out their MVP communities, their administrator communities. I don't remember if we discussed this or not. They instituted the golden hoodie, right? I mean, things like that. I mean, think about that for a minute. Where are they picking from? Pop culture, right? I mean, AGT, America's Got Talent, the golden hoodie. Those, to me, a lot of people say, "Oh, that's just showmanship and marketing." Yeah, it is, but the reality is it's brilliant because it actually goes to something people genuinely feel about something about, right?
I think you're on the money, and we're ahead of your time on the emotional resonance, right? I mean, to me, you start delivering something of value, like you said, right? But the way you avoid being a commodity, I mean, you have to continue to deliver value, but the great brands have emotional connection. The great brands have positive sentiment. The great brands have built fans. You think about Apple, you think about Lululemon, you think about, for a certain demographic. And to me, I know there might be differences of opinion, but in the same way, like people have their favorite pro football team, science fiction series, musical artist, Taylor Swift. I mean, there's no reason brands can't develop high fandom and still be authentic with what they do. And
absolutely agree.
That's what's going to prevent being a commodity, in a world one day of infinite AI generated content and a lot of services. It's going to be the great recognizable brands that cut through the noise of the internet. I think that's just, I think it's very important. It starts with that emotional connection. To
your point, and just our guest is here, but I'll bring up one more point, and then, after you respond, maybe we can bring them on. It's interesting when you mentioned Apple, because Apple is very interesting. I've done a lot of work on Apple over the years because, I pretty much use all their stuff. I mean, I can literally keep doing that. I can literally keep doing that in this room, right? So there's well, let's say I have enough. I have lots of Apple devices, but they're not actually a customer-friendly company, right? The irony of Apple is they literally work on build it and they will come, right? That's their entirety. They build amazing products. They're geniuses at promoting and building and promoting products that are slick, contemporary, exciting to people, and creating kind of lots of buzz around the product. But they are ruthless they've never been customer friendly. They don't really help you much. And so here's just an interesting little side story. Brent and I do a lot of watch parties with a lot of products, right? And when last year, or it's the beginning of this year, when Apple did its, I think it was the Worldwide Developers Conference, was that March or April? Whenever it was, Brent and I said, oh, let's do a watch party. We got flagged by YouTube for it. The only one we've ever been flagged by. So clearly, Apple does not want anyone broadcasting anything except them, which also means they're restricting what's being said about them, right? So, I mean, the only thing we've done a zillion watch parties. Okay, we've probably done, I am not joking, 100 or 200 over the years. And this is the only one that we've ever been flagged for, right? Ever. So, and the big brand, not as big as Apple, obviously, but Salesforce, so they don't mind. They just let us talk, and we talk. Apple, bam, they drop the hammer, right?
That's yeah. I mean, that again, future episode probably, but the spectrum of brands and how much they release control to, I'm just going to say, creators, the creator economy. You guys were creators. You had a point of view, right? How much that is allowed or even supported versus restricted. That's going to be a really interesting thing to watch, because I do believe humans like creators. They like these independent point of view. Like that's where attention is going. And so it may not be a fit for every brand, but many brands are going to learn to be slightly less comfortable with only their top-down PR message blessed from on high. And they're going to recognize that ultimately the brand is just the mental real estate where you occupy in an individual human. You can't really control that. When I say Volvo, certain things pop in your head, right? Different than Porsche, different than Tesla. That's the brand. And so anyway, it's interesting evolution.
Well, look, I mean, between the first and second shows, we now have about 15 years of shows ahead of us.
We got plenty, but right? I think we also got a guest, right?
Yes, we do. And so I'm going to introduce this gentleman. So I have known Valentin for, I'm saying 15 years. I can see you, Valentin, so you can nod yes or no. About 15 years, would you say? He's nodding yes. So I met him. I have a very good friend named Jesus Hoyos, who I've known for even longer. And Valentin worked with Jesus at Solvis Consulting for a long time, which is when I met Valentin. I mean, this gentleman here, we don't see each other physically very much, but we've been in communication over all these years, via LinkedIn and that kind of thing. He's smart. I mean, he's very smart. He's a really good consultant. Again, CRM, CX, that world. But he knows not just like I'm really good on strategy. I would not use me to do an IT job. I'm great on DIY, but ask me to fix your PC or your home, or do your home, help you with your home automation. I could do that, but don't ask me to don't ask me to implement anything. Don't ask me to think about how to implement anything. This guy is strategy. He's implementation. I mean, he's a top consultant. He's a top technologist. So,
and a bit of a gamer, I believe.
Well, that's the thing.
That's what we're gonna. That's what I'm gonna grill him on, Paul.
Okay.
Right?
About a week,
and
little less than a week ago, I put out this plea, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and Valentin answered, and he had a really interesting answer. He obviously is very much a gamer. So I'm not going to go into his answer because that is pretty much what we're going to be talking about. But let me bring on Valentin. And he said, funny because I've only called him Valentin as long as I've known him. His last name is Valle, being somewhat conversant in Spanish. I said, is that Valle or Valle? Right? Depending. And it was Valle, which actually surprised me. I thought it would be the other one. But here we go. Valentin Valle. And here he is. Welcome. So you're muted. You're muted, Valentin. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was muted.
Yes. How
Hello,
are you,
Paul.
sir?
Oh,
Hello.
very good. Very glad to be here
It's
because
it's been a while
gaming
since
is
I saw you too.
yeah. Gaming is something that I live in many parts of my life since I was young, and now I'm not so young, but but I surrounded by gamers, so this energizes me. And Todd, very glad to know you. I'm
Nice to
very
meet you. Welcome. You're already up leveling our podcast through your deep baritone voice. I feel
That's
like
right.
you have a voice made for podcasting. So good to
okay.
have you.
Thank you. Well, maybe
So
it's because yesterday was the Independence Day celebration. We were singing Mexican music, mariachi music, and that kind of thing. So maybe I have the vibe of the
that's right. The
of the
pipes.
singing.
You got the
The
pipes.
gravitas. I like it.
So Todd, I'm gonna let you. I know this guy already. I'll let you talk to him for a little bit, and then I'll jump in here and there.
Great. Well, I guess I'll have a two-part question since it is our first time meeting, Valentin. So,
Yeah.
uh, one, just maybe kind of a brief overview of your career, for those listeners that aren't familiar with your work. And then part two, you did respond to Paul's email saying you've learned something from gaming. So part two will be kind of, we can get into that, but maybe we start just a sketch overview of your career and how you think about your work.
Yes, I'm a CRM, contact center consultant for several years. I work with in service consulting with Jesus Hoyos, that is a referent in Latin America about CRM. And I am a big fan of Paul Greenberg and all his crew in that space. But I work in several vendors of technology, like this kind of technology, like Genesis in the contact center space, Avaya, Intervoice Convergys, Oracle, and maybe 13 years ago I joined to Service Consulting when we implement and we do consulting about this kind of we call ecosystems rather than solutions.
Yes.
And I'm a CX and a contact center guy.
Awesome.
But the twist about this about gaming and this kind of things is because my kids they studied engineering in it's a complex name, interactive technologies and digital animation. When I saw their projects in their career, I have a son and a daughter. They decided to study the same career. I saw projects about virtual reality, about augmented reality, about animations and gaming. And I learned to understand the game engines. And I thought, as a CX guy, a contact center guy, these are going to be channels in the future
Hmm.
for customer engagement. So I
Amen.
want to learn that. We founded an media lab and studio that we call COVAX. That is part of acronym of my wife last name and my last name, Co and Valle, and the X is for experience. And we work in enable experiences for engagement based on virtual reality, based on AR, based on gaming, and now artificial intelligence, trying to generate engagement. I think we launched this studio maybe 7 years ago. I was too early for for this, but we are having a lot of fun doing these things. And I work with mostly with friends of my kids because they leave me alone. My son is working in a top partner of Salesforce. He is expert in marketing cloud and commerce. My daughter is in the game industry, but she say because he talked with my son and me about CRM, Marte, customer experience. He was very uh, firm that they were not. She wasn't being involved in that space,
Mm.
but he became the thing she worked. She destroyed. She destroyed because in the study that where she's working now, she is manager of player experience.
A
Mm.
pleasure experience?
Player.
Player
A
experience.
player. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So he is in charge of customer service, in charge of metrics,
Right.
all the customer experience, but
So
with the name of
see,
player.
both disciplines coming together.
Yeah. So this is more or less my background, and well, as gamer, I started. I never had actually a console. I started playing with my friends' consoles and in arcades. I was very skilled in Centipede,
Hmm.
Jesus.
very
It's a
good in that.
throwback.
You are aging
Even,
yourself there. You definitely-
even internationally, because I went to States and I played, and always I reached maybe the top 3 scores, because I don't
Wow.
know if you remember, in the machines they put the highest
Yeah.
scores. Uh-huh.
Remember well. Yes.
And then when my kids started with consoles, I was the superhero for them, because the bosses appeared. Oh, Dad, help us, because they were terrified and scared about the bosses. After the time, they say, no, you are not so good, not good
Yeah.
enough. But in the pandemics, uh, I started to play with the Xbox of my son, because I have to say I was a little depressed, or very depressed, and Halo and Gear of Wars helped me to focus in something different. And it was funny because I was using the account of my son, and their friends say, "Are you playing Halo?" No, it's my dad. But your dad is 4 hours playing Halo.
That's great. Well, there was a
So
lot. Yeah. I mean, I
uh-huh.
love, yeah. Well, number one, it, we all have the memory, those of us with kids, of when it shifted, from you helping the kids through the hard part to them helping you through the hard part, because they cross over in gaming and so many things. But I remember that specifically, when the
Mhm.
pupil is better than the
Yeah,
master. And I'm glad games helped you through COVID. It helped a lot of people. The WHO, the World Health Organization, kind of went from thinking, putting messages out around kind of discouraging gaming, but after COVID, they started to recognize the positive mental health benefits, when done with balance, of course, but it helped a lot of people. So I'm glad it helped you connect with your son and stay active.
So
yeah.
I was curious. You in your comments, you start talking. I hadn't seen Jane McGonigal's name for a long time, but you mentioned how gaming had kind of helped you with the various principles you laid out there, social fabric, etc. Can you elaborate a little on that? That was really, I was fascinated. First of all, again, I have not seen Jane McGonigal in a long time. Nobody I know has ever brought her up. So I'm really more fascinated than even you would imagine on this one. So can you elaborate a little?
Well, I want to be a little back. Uh, in this studio, my wife is also collaborating. She have she has preparation around neuroscience and about uh, coaching, and we started to identify that that there are like ludic methodologies that were accepted generally with toys like Lego Serious Plays, and with fantasy like the Disney methodology or something like that. And we say, now that the world is digital, why we don't try to to bring to the business to develop soft skills, to develop a culture in the organizations, and to develop leadership with the game elements. And that's the reason, because we started to read about the different everyone in the different angles, and we found Jane McConical, and we understand that the games provide some things that the organization can apply, and some of them, it it's supposed they are in the organizations, but as my daughter says, but they are no fun. They call gamification. They are afraid, or ludic activities. They are afraid of call gaming, and we use the term game thinking. Think like a gamer. Think like a game designer. When you are establish this methodology, and we create a workshop, and we say, let's use the things that we have the games. The games have goals and have challenges. The corporate world has goals and challenges, but sometimes are not very clear. In the games are very clear. What is the next step? And the challenge is reachable, but you need to develop skills in the progress to reach that goal. Also, there are rules. There are a reference, and this reference is what makes that the goal is valid. You can cheat. You can be honest. Respect the rules, and also what I think is the part that lacks to gamification is storytelling. You need to create a storytelling, but also a story doing. The person, as a player, has to be part of the story, not just a spectator, but living the story. And this is a part that maybe Salesforce, that is familiar to Paul, tries to create with the Trailblazer, but is lacking of this story along the time.
Yeah.
And the storytelling and the story doing, it looks like it's very important. And also a very important part, feedback and incentives. The gaming is always providing feedback about where you are, about giving soft incentives, not always a hard incentive. And it's a fact that the players and the community plays better when they know the score, when they know where they are, when they are, how far or how close are of the goal. And this is the elements that we created to put in this workshop that we are providing some to some companies, in terms of, don't be afraid of the term gaming, because the gaming has these elements that are valid for the companies, for the leadership, but most important for the culture. And it has been challenging. Some brands are more open, so not so.
Well, to your point, one of the problems, and I found this early on when, companies like Medallion, there was one other one that was kind of big that was acquired by Medallion, were trying to push gamification. They didn't have a clue what they were actually doing. I mean, all they really pushed was how to speed up manual labor more quickly by sticking up a leaderboard and giving out a prize. That's not gamification, right? That's basically speed up manual work. Like, for example, and I think a lot of it goes to the point you just made, Valentin, about storytelling. There's no storytelling involved in that at all. Zero. And it's not a cultural phenomenon. It's literally something to accelerate work. And that's not the same thing at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's where B2B gets confused over what Todd's doing, what you're trying to do, what I at least am intellectually aware of, I guess I'll say. and it's messed up a lot of companies, which, by the way, is one of the reasons it's so difficult for you to make any headway, because they think it's the other thing, and they don't get. Look, it's interesting. SAP many years ago had a woman. What was her name? She was really smart. Oh God, I can't think of her name now, but her title was chief storyteller, and she was actually very good at it. Her last name was, I think, Rome, something Rome, Roehm, or I don't remember, something like that. But she was really good at it. And then, SAP did what SAP does and got rid of her. No longer was story, but it was an actual title, and her job was to craft the stories. Look, and it goes to what Alan Berkson talks about. Alan, has been a master and of the corporate narrative. That's the story, right? And it's a story that it's not exactly the same story we're talking about, but it's the concept of being able to tell a story about a company that is reflected in the actual culture of the company when you're looking for, okay, is this more than just marketing fluff, right? That's because that's the other part of the storytelling that goes to everything Todd and I were talking about, which is the emotional investment, which is driven by the culture, of course.
That's what I'd love, Valentin, because I think you well summarized the elements of a game and how you're looking to bring that framework, to B2B, and like you say, goals and feedback and escalating challenge. And as Paul said, that first set of, let's call it the mechanics, people have experimented a little bit. They kind of are starting to get it. Maybe the implementations aren't great, but they're kind of getting that part. But then the emotional investment, the storytelling. So, and then you combine all that with the fact that the player, as you said, is the protagonist. If they don't make meaningful choices, it really is not a game. You're on wheels and you're going through an illusion. You're being fooled like you're in a game, but your choices have to feel like at least they matter. So have you seen a brand, whether it's through your workshop or just, out there, if you think about someone that's kind of managed to have the mechanics, a little bit of player agency and a little bit of storytelling, is there anything, kind of informative there?
We create an experience after a workshop like this in a service provider where they have distributed contact centers.
Thanks,
and they wanted to do engagement with the people to create social fabric, as say Jane McConical says. And we designed in a metaverse space, spatial, we size and a space with a video game experience about Dia de Muertos. I don't know if you are familiar with Dia de Muertos.
Day of the Dead. Yeah.
And we put scenarios with the people. I don't know how do you say in English, ofrendas, but this is things that you put the food and the beverages that your beloved ones that pass away, they like it. And we put 3D elements in some paths for them that they look for, and they could upload photographs of them and the beloved ones they have, and they build these ofrendas. And the teams were not for site, were for the community. And it was very successful for generate this engagement, and they are continued these mechanicals for several events for team building, or for team building that last, because sometimes the team building efforts like going to hiking or going to some other things is an event and it doesn't continue. But with these spaces, now we are not involved because they learn how to build, but they are using this to generate engagement in the teamwork of these people that is distributed across the country.
There's a lot of great lessons there, I think. I mean, the fact that you leaned into an event framework, limited, exciting, something to be a part of. Gaming, as you know, even a successful online game, it does events to drive engagement, and then also leaning into this cultural celebration. They maybe didn't have to enlist writers and author their own story. They leaned into a story that would resonate with the culture that people already knew. So I think, those are two really powerful lessons there: events and working with stories that are maybe already there as humans.
Yeah,
So-
and sorry,
No, you go ahead, Valentin.
And about the points that Jane McConical calls the gamer superpowers,
Right.
they were key to combine to the management about that, because we told them there is a generation that have developed, is Jane McConical's speech, it's not mine.
Yeah.
Have developed these skills for more than a decade, and they are going to your workspace, and they are developed what she called urgent optimism. That is some kind of resilience, is automotivation, because in the gaming, most of the time you are failing, but you are not
Like baseball.
unmotivated. You are trying and you are learning in the process, and you have the hope that the next time you are going to do a better work. So it's resilience or something like that. Also, we have the social fabric, the gaming. The people in gaming is very open to create communities, and they collaborate about that. I have another point. Paul, tell me if I'm taking so many times.
Well, after this, we have time for one last question. That's about
Okay.
it. Go ahead. Take your time.
During pandemics, Cisco consultants, Avaya consultants were giving recommendations about remote work. And we say, they don't know about remote collaboration and productivity and how to workplace has to be. The gamers know. And we have a serious content about how the gamers learn to have remote collaboration, remote productivity, and the elements they have, the chair, two screens, the headphones, these kind of things. And well, they are productive for several hours because they are engaged with that, and they are comfortable with what they have. So this is the elements that we put before the workshop, and they were convinced of that. Yes, we have this generation of young people that are gamers.
Yeah. So one final question though.
Right.
What are you playing now?
Huh?
What are you playing now? Final question.
Call of Duty Mobile.
Nice.
I really bad at Call of Duty.
In mobile, I good. In the console, I bad.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of. Hey Todd, what mobile game do you play now? What do you play?
I play Brawl Stars the most from my friends at Supercell. It's like it's amazing. But
it's funny. I don't really. I was playing mobile games for a while. I would do that, but now what I do is I have a Lenovo Go S, and so I just and Steam OS on there, Steam operating system on there. So I just play Diablo 4 on that. I take it with me. That's all. I got really good though.
A little bit of Words with Friends with my wife, and she kept beating me. It was really it was quite something. I thought I was pretty good with words, but she's better.
I do the New York Times stuff every day. I wake up, and that's what I do before I literally get out of bed.
Wordle, spelling bee.
I got sick of Wordle after a while, to be honest. I'm really tired of it. Right. So I'm doing. I don't do the full crossword. I'll do that once a week. Okay, because I'd be in bed for like till noon if I did the full crossword on the New York Times. But I'll do like they have like there's a mini crossword, and I do that. There's also there's two games on LinkedIn I play. It's basically all you do is matching like terms, and then the other one is just connecting numbers. But they're easy and it keeps my brain active, right? So,
Yeah.
and we'll get into that another day too on the
Well-
neurological benefits. So, all right, so Call of Duty Mobile, Word
World
with
Stars
Friends,
for me,
and
Words
right,
with Friends.
and for me,
but
it's not much. Actually, out of the Park 26, which is a baseball game, which I actually love.
Okay.
It's a really good one too. I played the full one and the mobile one.
nice.
That would
Well,
be it.
Valentin, I guess for just maybe on our way out the door, how should people get in touch with you if they're interested in the work that you're doing?
Well, I'm in LinkedIn, Valentin Valle, at Solvis Consulting, and in the screen is my X account.
So
Awesome.
Valle. Okay, now
Valle.
so it's halfway between what I actually the two things I suggested to you.
Yeah.
I was
And
really
well,
wrong.
We have
Both.
content in Kovacs, COVAX
Sandy.
.biz, VIZ, and you can find the Kobe. Kobe is the mascot and the ambassador of our studio. And well, very happy to be with you guys. It's
Thank
very
you
interesting
so
what you are
much for
doing.
coming, man. And it's good to see you, even if it's virtually. Hopefully, I'll see you in person at some point, although I'm not
Yeah,
going
maybe
to
at some
conferences
point.
anymore. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, here's a big hug for you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us.
We'll
Todd,
talk to you
a
soon.
pleasure to know you.
All
Take
right.
care. So
What a pleasant gentleman.
he really is.
Applying
He's,
gaming concepts to B2B. I love it.
I had totally forgot about Jane McGonigal. I read the book Reality is Broken years ago. Like I think I read it in, I want to say it came out like 2012, 2013, 2011, like then, sometime in the 2010s, early 2010s. And I read it when it came out. I loved it. And then I forgot about it completely. Right? Which I shouldn't. Now, you know what I want to do? I want to go back and read it again.
Life lessons from gaming. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, he gave us a lot of business lessons, but Jane was right on the life lessons, which is a good preview because I think we're gonna add a level up segment to this thing,
Yes.
right, in the future, where we specifically call out those lessons for life and business. So look for that, chat. That's coming your way soon.
That should be coming your way. I would hope our next episode. So let's see.
Oh,
Today
nice.
is the 16th. So what? We'll look. I have to look at the calendar since I do not know exactly when the date is. But okay, wait a minute. Okay, so October. Technically, we should be good. Oops, I'm going backward. It's the third Tuesday of the month. So that technically the first Tuesday that shows up on the calendar is the 30th of September. That doesn't count. So it would be October 21st.
All right.
Okay.
October 21st. We'll be back with you guys. Thanks to everyone that joined or is catching us later.
And the other thing is Brent Leary and I will be at Ray Wong's CCE conference the 23rd and through the 25th. It's amazing. Like the date we're doing our next event falls between 3 trips I'm making the same month, right?
Nice.
Misses all of them. So it's perfect. So we're going to be testing a platform which we may be going to on all the shows down the road called Kaltura. It's AWS's actual platform. And luckily it scales down as well as up because we're scaling at that scale. We don't need it. But
that.
Yeah, so we'll be training people in that.
Than
that,
oh yeah, I got to promote too because that's only 1 week before a whole week of gaming content. Games Week Georgia, the last week of October. IRL in real life event with a huge consumer festival, DreamHack, a bunch of content related to this. So anyway, if you're interested in attending and you haven't, just ping me on LinkedIn. You know, I'll get you hooked up with the discount code, and it's going to be a great community of people who are passionate about gaming for education, for business, for marketing, and of course, entertainment. You know, starts with that. So.
Well, I know you'll be there. Are you going to be exhibiting there?
Well, we're hosting a lot of the events.
Wow.
At our place. So we've got 4 events that we're doing, and then we'll be exhibiting or doing basically a pop-up at DreamHack Atlanta, and that event will be like 40,000 gamers. That's a big event. So that's Halloween and the 2 days after, and our events are leading up to that. So
what does DreamHack do when people knock on the door and say trick or treat?
Well, we're going to see this year. It's the first year. DreamHack, half the people are in costume when it's in May or December. It's a cosplay crowd. So the fact that it happens to be on Halloween maybe means 75% will be in.
That's actually really funny. Maybe what they should, if I'm DreamHack, what I would be doing, since they are cosplayers, if you come in cosplay outfit, they hand you a bag with candy in it.
Right. Well, not to be too on the nose, but DreamHack is on Halloween, and my gaming team is Ghost. So you can kind of imagine what we're going to be doing.
Wow.
Like
is anybody going to be, is it going to be like weird, spooky, or is it going to be Casper the Friendly?
We're friendly. We're friendly Ghost. I mean, for this sort of event. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, I highly recommend anybody who can get there, go there. Go to either one. But
it's gonna be a good time. Yeah, just hit me up. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We'll make it. We'll make it a good time for you. So
I think that's awesome. Well, I guess might as well get back to our humdrum everyday lives, and we'll have to let this show germinate for another I don't know what month.
Yeah,
and I will of course be talking to you a lot sooner, my friend. And as always, it's been wonderful.
That was fun. I learned some stuff from our guest and learned some stuff from you as always. And it was a good hang. So.
Mutual. All right. So I'll see you soon.
Later, friends.
This has been a Players Productions Network digital broadcast.